Have you ever stood in the middle of your life and felt as if the ground beneath you was breaking, the walls around you collapsing, the noise of 1,000 voices drowning your thoughts, and yet deep inside you, there is a whisper, quiet but undeniable, telling you that the chaos does not have the final say, that peace is still possible even here, even now, even when nothing makes sense. And the shocking truth is that the peace you are searching for is not something you will stumble upon after. The storm is over, but something God offers in the middle of it. A supernatural calm that exists not because the chaos is absent, but because His presence is real. And you need to realize this hidden reality, because most people are waiting for circumstances to change before they rest. But you are called to rest in Him while the storm still rages. Because the Bible says in Psalm 23 that even though you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you will fear no evil, for He is with you. His rod and His staff comfort you, and that means you are never walking alone. Even when fear screams, even when betrayal cuts deep, even when finances dry up and relationships crack apart, because the peace God gives is not tied to bank accounts, not tied to health reports, not tied to human approval, but anchored in His eternal word, His unchanging presence, His unfailing love. And you need to understand that chaos is not the evidence of His absence, but often the very stage where His peace becomes undeniable, the arena where His Spirit demonstrates power, the battlefield where your faith is proven real. And that is why Jesus in Mark 4 slept in the boat during the storm while His disciples panicked, because He carried a peace that the winds could not disrupt. And He invites you into that same hidden rest, a secret serenity that shocks the enemy, because Satan expects you to collapse when the waves rise, expects you to surrender when the fire burns, expects you to curse God when everything falls apart. But instead you lift your eyes to the hills from where your help comes, and you declare that even in this chaos you will not be shaken, because Isaiah 26 verse 3 says He keeps in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in Him. And here is the secret most people overlook. Peace is not the absence of problems, but the presence of God in the midst of them. And when you finally embrace this truth, everything shifts, because instead of asking God to remove every storm, you start asking Him to anchor you in the middle of it. Instead of demanding escape, you begin to cultivate endurance. Instead of craving comfort, you start craving communion with Him. And that is when you discover that peace is not a fragile emotion that flees when life gets hard, but a divine weapon that protects your mind, shields your heart, and gives you authority to stand when everything else is falling. And the shocking revelation is that the more intense the chaos, the greater the opportunity to see this peace in action, to feel it wrap around you like armor, to watch it confuse the enemy who cannot understand how you still smile, how you still sing, how you still worship, how you still get up in the morning and walk forward with confidence even though nothing has changed. And this is exactly why Philippians 4 verse 7 describes it as a peace that surpasses understanding, because it does not make sense to the world. It does not follow logic. It cannot be explained by psychology or human reasoning. It is supernatural, divine, unshakable, and it is yours if you dare to believe, if you dare to surrender, if you dare to stop fighting the storm in your own strength and start trusting the one who calms storms with a single word. Because the truth is, you are not called to control the chaos. You're called to rest in the one who already reigns over it. And the enemy hates this truth because he knows that once you stop panicking and start resting in God's promises, His power over your mind is broken. His lies lose their grip, his threats lose their sting, and suddenly you become untouchable. Not because life is easy, but because your spirit is anchored, your mind is guarded, your soul is at rest. And this is the shocking hidden strength of the chosen ones of God. They walk through fire without being burned. They stand in lions' dens without fear. They cross raging seas on dry ground. Because their peace is not circumstantial, but spiritual. Not temporary, but eternal. Not earned, but gifted by grace. And if you would open your heart right now, you would realize that God has been offering you this same calm all along, whispering in the chaos, "Be still and know that I am God." And the tragedy is that so many believers never tap into it because they are too busy trying to fix everything themselves, too distracted by the noise, too addicted to control, too fearful of surrender. And yet the hidden key is this: surrender is the doorway to peace. Because when you let go, God takes over. When you stop clinging, He starts carrying. When you quit striving, He begins sustaining. And in that shocking moment of letting go, you realize that you were never meant to handle everything alone. You were never designed to carry burdens without Him. You were never supposed to navigate chaos in your own wisdom. Because Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6 commands you to trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding in all your ways. Acknowledge Him and He will make your path straight. And that straight path does not mean easy. It means guided, protected, purposeful, orchestrated by His sovereign hand. And when you walk it with faith, you carry a peace that nothing can steal. No betrayal, no diagnosis, no rejection, no failure, no storm, no loss. And it is shocking to realize how free you feel when you no longer let circumstances define your calm. When you no longer allow other people's chaos to invade your soul. When you finally decide that the peace Jesus died to give you is too precious to forfeit, too powerful to abandon, too sacred to exchange for temporary worry. And suddenly you understand why Jesus said in John 14 verse 27, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." Because the world offers peace that depends on everything going right, but Jesus offers peace that stands even when everything goes wrong. And this is the peace that will carry you through the darkest valley, the loneliest night, the fiercest storm. And if you will cling to it, guard it, protect it, nurture it, then you will discover a shocking strength rising in you. A hidden courage that refuses to bow to fear, a supernatural calm that makes even the demons tremble, because they cannot shake a heart anchored in God's peace. They cannot intimidate a soul that has already surrendered. They cannot disrupt a mind that is guarded by truth. And you'll begin to realize that peace is not just a gift, but a weapon. Not just a comfort, but strategy. Not just a feeling, but a force. And with it you will overcome every storm the enemy sends, every lie he whispers, every scheme he plots, because you walk not in fear, but in the fearless calm of the children of God. And that is the hidden secret of peace in the middle of chaos. Because once you understand that peace is both your inheritance and your weapon, you begin to live differently. You begin to walk with a boldness that confuses people. Because outwardly nothing has changed. The storm is still raging. The betrayal still stings. The finances are still uncertain. Yet inwardly you are unshaken, because you have tapped into the hidden current of God's Spirit flowing through you. And this is why Colossians 3 verse 15 says, "To let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts. Since as members of one body you were called to peace, and to be thankful. And that word rule means to act like an umpire, to decide what stays and what goes, which means peace is not just passive. It actively decides what thoughts you allow to remain, what fears you cast out, what lies you silence. And when you choose to let peace rule, you dethrone chaos from your mind. You disarm the enemy's schemes. You declare by faith that fear has no authority here. And the shocking truth is that this kind of peace is not meant to be rare, not reserved for a few spiritual elites, but available to every child of God who dares to believe, and yet most secretly struggle to grasp it, because they still measure God's love by their circumstances, still assume His presence depends on their feelings, still think His promises are delayed because of their mistakes. But you need to realize that Romans 8 verses 38 to 39 declares nothing in all creation can separate you from the love of God in Christ Jesus. Not death, not life, not angels, not demons, not the present, not the future, not powers, not height, not depth, not anything else in all creation. Which means your peace is secure because His love is secure. Your calm is unshakable because His presence is unshakable. Your destiny is unstoppable because His hand is unstoppable. And when this revelation takes root, fear has no ground left to stand on. Worry has no doorway left to sneak through. Despair has no seat left at the table, because your spirit has learned the hidden secret of stillness, the discipline of resting in the unchanging goodness of God. And suddenly verses like Psalm 46 verse 10, "Be still and know that I am God," are no longer just pretty words on a page. They become your lifeline, your anchor, your daily practice, because you recognize that stillness is not laziness. It is spiritual warfare. It is defiance against the enemy's pressure. It is your bold declaration that God is in control, even when everything around you screams the opposite. And that stillness unlocks a shocking clarity in the middle of chaos. Because when the world is noisy and your soul chooses silence, you begin to hear God's whispers more clearly. You begin to notice His fingerprints in the details. You begin to see His hand moving in ways you missed before. And the hidden gift of chaos is that it forces you to listen deeper, to trust more fully, to surrender more completely. Because peace that is never tested is peace that is never proven. And God allows the shaking not to destroy you, but to show you that what cannot be shaken will remain, that your foundation is Christ, that your anchor is secure, that your soul is guarded. And when Hebrews 12 verse 28 says we are receiving a kingdom that cannot be shaken, it means that when everything else falls apart, your peace stands, because it is built on what is eternal, not what is temporary. And this realization should shock you into gratitude, because it means no storm has the final word. No betrayal writes the last chapter. No failure disqualifies you from His promises. And even in your darkest nights, God is weaving together hidden purposes that will shock you when they are revealed, because Romans 8 verse 28 guarantees that all things, yes, even this chaos, work together for the good of those who love Him and are called according to His purpose, which means nothing is wasted, not the pain, not the tears, not the confusion, not the loneliness. All of it is being turned into testimony. All of it is being repurposed into strength. All of it is being used to deepen your peace, because peace is not shallow. It is not surface level. It is forged in fire, grown in storms, rooted in eternity. And the longer you walk with God, the more you realize that His peace shows up most powerfully when everything else is falling apart, because that is when you have no choice but to lean on Him, no option but to surrender, no strategy but to trust. And when you do, when you let go of your desperate need to control the uncontrollable, you step into a shocking freedom, the kind of freedom Paul described when he wrote Philippians from prison and still declared, "Rejoice in the Lord always." Because even in chains his spirit was free, even in darkness his soul was light, even in isolation his peace was unshaken. And that is the same peace available to you, if you will dare to embrace it, if you will refuse to let chaos dictate your posture, if you will stand firm in the truth that greater is He who is in you than he who is in the world. Because the enemy's greatest weapon is not the chaos itself, but the fear it produces. And when you rob him of that by resting in peace, he loses his power, his schemes fail, his attacks backfire, and your testimony grows stronger. And this is why your peace in the middle of chaos is not just for you. It is a witness, a light, a shocking example to others who are drowning in fear. Because when they see you calm while everything burns, when they watch you praise while everything shakes, when they notice your serenity while everyone else panics, they will secretly wonder what you know that they don't. And that is your opportunity to reveal the hidden treasure, the Prince of Peace himself, Jesus Christ, who alone can anchor souls in storms, who alone can silence winds with a word, who alone can give rest to the weary and hope to the hopeless. And in that moment your peace becomes a ministry, your calm becomes a testimony, your stillness becomes a sermon, louder than any words, more powerful than any argument, because it is living proof that God is real, that His promises are true, that His Spirit is alive, and that His peace is stronger than any chaos this world can unleash. And the deeper you walk in this revelation, the more you begin to realize that peace is not only your inheritance, but also your secret strategy for victory. Because when the enemy throws chaos at you, he expects you to break, he expects you to crumble. But when you remain calm, you frustrate his plan, you dismantle his agenda, you expose his weakness, because he cannot control a believer who refuses to panic. And this is why Ephesians 6 verse 15 describes part of your spiritual armor as having your feet fitted with the readiness that comes from the gospel of peace, because peace stabilizes you, peace roots you, peace makes you unmovable. And the shocking truth is that without peace, even the strongest believer can stumble. But with peace, even the weakest believer can stand, because peace holds you steady, peace gives you traction, peace keeps you from slipping when the ground shakes. And you must learn to see peace not as an optional comfort, but as a non-negotiable weapon, a shield around your mind, a guard over your spirit, a fortress in your soul. Because when you carry this peace, the enemy's fiery darts lose their sting. They may hit your circumstances, but they cannot penetrate your spirit. They may shake your surroundings, but they cannot shake your core. And that is why Isaiah 54 verse 17 declares, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper." Because the weapon may form, the chaos may rise, the storm may roar, but it cannot prosper against a believer rooted in peace. And once you truly grasp this, you start living differently. You stop reacting to every storm. You stop letting every rumor rattle you. You stop allowing every problem to dictate your emotions, because your spirit has learned the discipline of rest, the audacity of calm, the shocking strength of silence in the middle of noise. And you realize that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is not to fight harder, but to rest deeper. Because rest is trust, and trust invites God to move where striving only creates exhaustion. And this is the secret many never discover. That peace is the breeding ground of miracles, because when your heart is calm, you can hear God's instructions. When your mind is quiet, you can discern His whispers. When your spirit is steady, you can perceive the hidden doors He is opening. And this is why so many miss breakthroughs. They panic instead of pausing. They complain instead of listening. They strive instead of surrendering. And yet, if you will dare to pause in the middle of chaos, dare to wait in stillness, dare to trust in silence, you will find God revealing strategies that shock you, solutions that you never saw, resources that appear from nowhere, because He is the God who provided manna in the wilderness, water from the rock, ravens to feed Elijah, oil that never ran out for the widow. And He is still that God today, working in the middle of your storm, moving behind the scenes, orchestrating divine alignments that only peace will allow you to perceive. And as you lean into this truth, you begin to understand why Jesus repeatedly said, "Do not worry," because worry blinds you to provision. Worry deafens you to His voice. Worry locks you into fear. But peace opens your eyes. Peace sharpens your ears. Peace awakens your spirit. And the shocking transformation begins when you refuse to worry about tomorrow and instead focus on today's grace. Because Matthew 6 verse 34 commands you not to worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own, and hidden in that verse is the shocking key. Grace is given daily, peace is poured out daily, strength is supplied daily, and when you stop dragging tomorrow's worries into today, you suddenly find that the peace you need is already present, already sufficient, already guarding you, because God's mercies are new every morning. And that means peace is renewed every morning. Hope is renewed every morning. Strength is renewed every morning. And this is why the chaos you fear does not have to control you, because God has already placed in you everything you need to endure it, overcome it, and even shine in the middle of it. And the more you embrace this, the more you realize that chaos is not your enemy, but your classroom, teaching you to rely on Him more deeply, drawing you closer to His heart, stripping away illusions of control, forcing you to surrender. And in that surrender you discover a shocking intimacy, a hidden closeness with God that you never knew in seasons of ease. And this is why Paul said in 2 Corinthians 12 verse 10, that when he is weak, then he is strong, because it is in the weakness of chaos that the strength of peace becomes undeniable. It is in the brokenness of trial that the wholeness of His presence becomes visible. And if you are honest, some of the closest moments you have ever had with God were not in seasons of comfort, but in seasons of desperation, when everything else failed and only His presence remained. And though you hated the pain, you cherished the peace, because it carried you, sustained you, transformed you. And that is the shocking paradox of faith, that peace shines brightest in the darkest chaos, that calm is loudest in the fiercest storm, that serenity is strongest in the deepest fire. And if you will hold on to this revelation, you will never again see chaos the same way. Because instead of fearing it, you will discern it. Instead of resisting it, you will embrace the lessons it carries. Instead of collapsing under it, you will rise through it. Because you know that peace is not the absence of storms, but the presence of the Savior. And when He is with you, even the valley of the shadow of death becomes a path to still waters. Even the fire becomes a refining furnace. Even the pit becomes a preparation for the palace. Even the storm becomes a stage for miracles. And you, chosen child of God, become the testimony that peace is possible not after chaos, but in it, not beyond storms, but within them, not later but now. And as you keep walking with this awareness, you begin to see that peace is not just a promise for your inner world, but a ripple that transforms your outer world. Because the calm you carry begins to influence your decisions, shape your relationships, direct your steps, and even affect the atmosphere around you. Because people can feel when you're anchored, they can sense when you're stable, they can see when you are unshaken. And though they may not say it aloud, they secretly long for the hidden strength you display. Because in a world addicted to chaos, true peace shines like fire in the darkness, like a lighthouse in a raging sea, like a fortress on a trembling earth. And this is exactly why Jesus said in Matthew 5 verse 9, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God." Because when you carry peace in chaos, you are not only surviving the storm, but becoming an instrument of calm for others. And that is the shocking, hidden purpose of your struggle, that God is not only teaching you to endure, but preparing you to be a vessel of peace in a world that desperately needs it. And when you allow Him to cultivate this in you, your very presence begins to silence storms. Your words begin to calm anxious hearts. Your prayers begin to shift atmospheres. And you realize that peace is contagious. Peace is transferable. Peace is a mantle that you carry into rooms and workplaces and families and friendships. And this is why the enemy fights so hard to rob you of it. Because he knows that if you ever remain steady in chaos, you will not only stand strong yourself, but you will strengthen others. You will inspire others. You will awaken others. And his plan to spread fear will collapse. And so you must guard your peace fiercely, not as something fragile, but as something sacred, because Proverbs 4 verse 23 commands you to guard your heart above all else, for everything you do flows from it. And if peace rules your heart, then peace flows from your life. And if chaos rules your heart, then chaos flows from your life. Which is why the discipline of peace is not just personal, but missional. Because when you remain calm in the storm, you're not only protecting your own soul, but also shining a light for those drowning in fear. And this is why your testimony matters. Because people may doubt your words, but they cannot deny your peace. They may argue your doctrine, but they cannot argue your serenity. They may mock your faith, but they cannot shake your calm. And in time they will ask, sometimes secretly, sometimes openly, what is your secret? How are you not breaking right now? And in that moment you will not boast in yourself, but point to the one who is your anchor, the one who is your Prince of Peace, the one who promised in John 16 verse 33 that in this world you will have trouble, but take heart, for he has overcome the world. And when you realize he has already overcome, then peace becomes your natural response. Because why would you panic in a battle that is already won? Why would you collapse in a storm that is already silenced? Why would you surrender to fear when the victory has already been declared? And this is the shocking truth that will forever change how you see chaos. The fight is fixed, the outcome secured, the end already written. And if God is for you, who can be against you? Which means peace is not only possible, but logical, because the only irrational thing left is to panic when your destiny is already guaranteed. And so I challenge you right now to embrace this hidden strength, to cultivate this shocking calm, to carry this secret weapon, because peace is not a suggestion, it is your inheritance. Peace is not a luxury, it is your birthright. Peace is not optional, it is your survival. And you must decide that nothing, no storm, no betrayal, no loss, no failure, will rob you of it, because the moment you forfeit peace, you give power back to chaos. But the moment you hold on to peace, you take that power back. You flip the battle, you reclaim authority, and you walk not as a victim, but as a victor, chosen, anointed, covered, sustained. And if you truly believe this, then your life will never again be dictated by circumstances, but by promises. Not by storms, but by the Savior. Not by fear, but by faith. Because you will have finally understood the shocking truth hidden all along. That peace in the middle of chaos is not only possible, it is inevitable. When your eyes are fixed on Jesus, your heart surrendered to His Spirit, your mind anchored in His Word, and your soul hidden in His love. And from this moment on, you must decide, not tomorrow, not someday, but now, in this very breath, that you will walk in this peace. Guard it fiercely, share it freely, and let it rule your life until the day the chaos of this world ends, and you stand in eternal peace before the throne of the one who carried you through every storm, sustained you in every trial, silenced every fear, and proved again and again that His peace was, is, and will always be enough.